Well, hello. Welcome to Dark Arts by Racine. I'm Racine, and I'd like to congratulate you for stumbling upon my very first YouTube video. That means that we get to clamber through the cringy, rambling dialogue that is the first attempt at narration together. As many other artists do, I've opened ye old sketchbook, this one was brand new actually, to get some ideas down, with the goal of coming up with an idea worthy enough to graduate to a finished piece, while simultaneously kind of warming up and flushing some of the not so worthy ideas out of the noggin. I actually don't usually do this part. More often than not, I'll be going about my business and kind of get like slapped in the back of the eyelids with a brief image of a weirdo monster or creature or what have you, and I'll put it in my later pocket for the next time I get to sit down and draw. There are two major issues I've had with this method. Three actually. One, since I was just jumping in, that means that my drawings were always ill-placed on the paper, like either too high or too low or too left, just anywhere but center, and that's not very aesthetically pleasing. Two, it also meant that I was erasing like crazy, which was seriously compromising the integrity of my paper or even canvas if I was like trying to get risky with some paints or something. And three, the biggest reason to get back into sketching ideas before just jumping in, is it means that I wasn't getting as much practice in between my finished, using air quotes there because I'm never really sure when a piece is finished, pieces. I've learned that the easiest way to fall into an artistic rut, at least for myself, is to only jump from one complete piece to the next. It means I'm improving at a super slow rate, and I get frustrated with my lack of progress, which means I draw even less, which, like, come on, you walnut, you're not gonna get any better unless you bump up those rookie numbers. Gotta get them up. This was a long-winded way to bring up the fact that I do not consider myself especially skilled. I'm very much still learning, which is totally okay. In fact, it wasn't until recently that I decided that this kind of art style was really more where I felt at home. For a long time, I put a lot of value in accuracy or realism. And I'm not meaning to take away anything from realism artists. It's an incredible skill. But it wasn't something that felt altogether fulfilling for me. And actually, one of the most important things that I've learned while trying to find my style, which I'm still working on, is that it's really unnecessary to try and put yourself in a box. Like for a hot minute there, I was concerned with only creating, comic-esque art because it's a style that I admire, and I do have dreams of making a comic. Ooh, hold on, I'm about to butcher this hand. Look at that broken hand. I love it. it's just a weird claw of mush and fingers, and I didn't know how to fix it, so I don't know, throw some more lines, ignore it. It's a sketchbook, it doesn't matter, but yeah, I don't know, that's funny, I had to call that out. Shoot, what was I talking about? But I was getting frustrated with trying to match the style that I had loved and admired for so long, and I was trying, really I was falling back into that unfulfilling territory, even though it's a style that I love. So I stepped back and I just drew something weird, and it felt right. And now I just kind of lean into drawing the weird and sometimes gross things that my brain likes to show me at the most inappropriate times. I simply take inspiration from the likes of like Cameron Stewart or Becky Cloonan instead of like trying to be them, Or did that sound weird? I don't know. I'm on a serious ramble here. But I am about to wrap up my sketchbook portion here, and spoiler alert, after all this, I end up just kind of going with the first monster I drew because I kind of just threw him down on the paper, and I ended up really, really liking how he turned out. I also ended up really liking this little worm guy who's kind of hanging out in the tooth there. I think he's super freaking cute. His facial expression really does it for me. But I figured, for like a full piece, the monster had better movement, just kind of worked better, and I really liked him. Oddly enough, one of the problems with the whole center of the page thing ended up happening with his little box that I drew for him. So I struggle and I struggle and I struggle with that back leg until I decide to just move the line. I just make the box bigger and make it work because dang it. After all that, I still just struggle to get things all center and appropriate. That little dash of dramaticism for you, because I was so bummed out about that. Oh, and fancy shot to show you that after all of this talk, I still had issues with centering, and I still had issues just tearing up my paper, erasing and erasing and erasing. But you know what? Erasing is totally fine. That's one of the things that I ended up having to really learn and get better at, is that if you don't like how something looks, freaking erase it. Just get rid of it and try again. Oh yeah, I was trying to make a TikTok. Yeah. I have a TikTok. But yeah, it's totally okay to erase. Because the more you erase now, the less you're going to have to erase later. If that makes sense. I feel like I know what that means. I was like trying to be wise. I don't know. Hey, look at that. We're still doing line art, which is my favorite part. I could spend all day doing line art. Like if I didn't necessarily have to draw things to line art, I would probably line art things just exclusively. That being said, I do in fact like drawing the actual item. Oh, and I changed the thumbs up to a bouquet of flowers because I thought it was a little bit more silly and, you know, a little bit more contrasting to this alien type monster dude, you know, just offering you a bouquet of flowers. Like, how bummed out do you have to look to be offered a bouquet of flowers by this guy? You know what I mean? Also, I would happily accept these flowers. I think these are also just kind of like made of flowers. I just kind of drew pretend flowers. I think one of them is trying to be a rose. I don't know. They are and floral appearance. I really absolutely know nothing about flowers. Like flowers are cool. Oh, and I really, really liked how it looked, which is super clean line art, and I felt pretty confident that I was going to destroy it with shading and color, so I did a nice close-up for myself to remember what it looks like before I do this. This being using a Copic marker to kind of lay out where I want my deepest tones or my shading to really be the heaviest before I go in with my Prismacolors and add that kind of like pop of color. I wasn't really looking to make this piece super colorful. I just kind of wanted the bouquet to stand out compared to the monster, kind of pushing that contrast. So all I really do to the monster is I kind of add like a little bit of a fleshy kind of purple to kind of bring a little bit of life to him and a little bit to kind of like separate him from the background a little bit, even though I end up using a white gel pen to kind of do that more on purpose and more effectively. I feel like it like elevates my art past its actual level. It's like a little cheat, a little hack to make it look a little bit more polished than it really is. So, I mean, at this point, it's pretty much just kind of cleaning up some of the messy outlines of the white gel pen, because it's kind of hard to control for me sometimes, and kind of going back in there with the pen and making sure that my line art didn't get completely eaten up by the Prismacolor. And although the purple didn't blend out as well as I had initially intended, I was still pretty happy with it. And I'd kind of just hit the point where I felt done. Could I have done more to it? Of course, you can always do more to it, but I felt done. And sometimes good enough is still a success. In fact, most of the times it's still a success because you did the thing, and doing the thing is the hardest part. Speaking of doing the thing, we did it! We're nearing the end of my very first YouTube video. And we're gonna have a little special guest in the corner here. There's my toddler. She's about to try and redesign my signature. Oh boy, that was a heart-stopping moment for me. Freaked out. But yeah, I mean, here it is. I hope you like it, and if you made it to the end, I greatly, greatly appreciate you giving me your time like that. You have no idea what it means to me, so thank you. And if you have any feedback or any suggestions, I'm open to hear what you gotta say. So, I mean, until next time, later, Tater.